Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about life services in Portland. It's going to help us to open up our emotional states, which can influence our thought processes and behavior. We try to take care of these healthy changes, which can be sabotaged by negative emotions, which are held as energy in our electro-geomagnetic field. Each and every one of us can find ways that we can clear this up so we can make better decisions and, most importantly, be right here in the moment so we can see our lives transform in ways that we can never, ever even imagine. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest of Espavo Life Services, which is located in Portland, Oregon, our guest, Deborah O'Brien. Deborah, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Daniel. How are you?
Doing well, especially when it comes from living with the heart, which is what you help people do, isn't it?
Yes, I do.
Now, how did you start with this journey?
Well, I started as a young mother and working with the struggles of raising a troubled teen, and worked through got a lot of wisdom from that child, raising that child. And I started with Reiki in 1993. And I moved, and it just has been a journey of discovery for me in working with energy fields. Reiki is fascinating, and I followed it up to Asui Tibetan master levels and Karuna from the International Center for Reiki Training. And then I, from there, got interested in other ways of working with energy, and I found the way of the heart. And the way of the heart is the one that works in the electro-geomagnetic field. And there's so much to be learned about energy, and I'm not a scientist, but I feel the experience and I witness the experience. And it's very transformational and helpful and therapeutic in so many ways. The way of the heart is a practice that was brought forth by some people who are actually scientists. And Daniel Goodenough was one of the teachers, and he has been a quantum scientist. And the way of the heart works in use of numeric spin codes in the field at specific points. And the work that I'm doing, I'm sharing with people the experience of this because it's very hard to describe unless you have the feeling of it, the experience. So I'm doing workshops in the Portland area to share this experience with as many people as possible.
Do you find when people take a look at this, they kind of scratch their heads and think, well, how is this really going to help? It seems that we live in a society based on results, especially instantaneous, quickly gratifying results, and something like this comes along and they think to themselves, well, where's the science, where's the reality behind what we're talking about here? Prove to me that this really is what it is, and maybe I'll think about trying it.
Yeah, good question. And it's really, that's the way we think. We're taught to question everything that you can't see, and there are things that we can't see that can do us harm, like toxins in the environment, and electromagnetic waves in the air, and there are things that can do our bodies and minds and hearts, damage. And then there are energies that are helpful and healing and beneficial. And we need to be able to discern, how to use energy to the benefit of our total body health and total body wellness, because we're not just lumps of meat here. We've got more than just a physical body. We've got an energy body, and acupuncture proves this with their work with needles in the electrical field, and Reiki works in the energy field. And what I'm working with is ancient energies as well. It's quite interesting that the energies from the way of the heart, the working with in the electro-geomagnetic field actually can access other generations too. I mean, make an impact to other generations. And we don't realize that who we are part of a genetic line, an ancestral line, and that everything we've accumulated as experience in this lifetime, as from childhood or birth all the way to where we are today, is held in our unconscious mind. And our unconscious mind actually is the machine that runs our lives. Everything we think, know, feel, every action we take, it begins in the unconscious. And we do things in patterns, and things just show up there. And sometimes those patterns are influenced by energies that are held from ancestral, experiences in our family line. And we can't pretend to know all of it, but muscle testing helps me access the truth that the body knows. Kinesiology is how we access what's needed.
Tell us about muscle testing. What is it about that tells you what you're looking for?
Well, it's kind of the body's way of answering questions that the mind doesn't get involved. And when you're in the clear, when your body's clear to give the answers, you test by pushing on or pulling on a part on an arm, and you ask the question. And you should try this. This is kind of fun to do. People can do this. You ask a question, or even make a statement like, my name is, and say your name is something else than your name, and then muscle test, like by putting your finger in a loop with your other fingers and just kind of pulling and seeing if it breaks through. If it doesn't break through, then it's on. It means yes. If it breaks through, then it means no. Your body knows the truth. You can't. It's kind of a little lie detector test or something. But the truth is, your body can bypass your mind's ideas of things to get to the absolute knowing of what's needed. And then I process all the work I do with muscle testing.
So when somebody comes to you, okay, what's the process that's involved here?
Well, the process is basically we connect and talk a bit about what they feel they need, and then I give them possible solutions for clearings, because I have several things that I use for helping people access more peace. And it may be indicated that there are field programs to clear, which is, there's a spin point on the left leg, and there are numeric codes that I use to open the spin points to clear whatever is indicated to be cleared, like it can be anxiety, it can be frustration, it can be, anything. And depression can be cleared. So you can get some relief from that part. If it's held there, that's what will be released. The other thing I do is called Huna forgiveness. It's a Hawaiian technique with Huna energy. Hawaiian, it's Ho'oponopono. I have a CD from a doctor who's a kahuna in Hawaii who leads you through a meditation technique to cut the aka cord from everyone in your life, in your history, to free you from the burdens of pain from feeling wronged in any way from any person in your history. And it just cuts the cord, and then the energy of that connection with those people, that just frees you from that experience and from the pain of it, and it just lets you go, lets it all go. And that's a really powerful thing to do for healing.
Now, it makes me curious, based on what you're telling us here on the program, is that it seems that a lot of us will take past experiences. We perceive those into a future that hasn't even imagined yet, and we tend to make choices based on these past experiences that may not be based, in the reality of what we're experiencing now. It's almost as though like we live in a trance. Has that been your experience as you've worked with people?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's sort of like you have a you have a limit of choice. You're kind of driven by impulse rather than conscious choice. And some of it's survival instinct of the fear, fight and flight, fear-based. Gotta fight for my place in the world, and gotta conquer things, gotta control things, and instead of just simply allowing life to unfold and moving graciously and pulling towards you what you need, and just mindfully not choosing things that you don't need. And so you get more control of your diet, for instance, which food is energy, it's information for your total body, including your mind and thoughts. I mean, what you eat impacts how you feel and what you think. If you're drinking lots of coffee or eating lots of sugar, you're going to have a different experience of life than if you're, eating more fruits and vegetables and, exercising and drinking lots of water. So it's just a choice, but like you say, we get stuck in patterns. And then we make ourselves wrong, which is really not kind at all. And we're like, oh, why can't I make that change? And it's really not about willpower. It's about that there's stuff in the field that's held and things that are happening. Our emotional centers are overloaded with, history of traumas, or it can be like a health crisis, or something that you overcame a disease, or, a bad relationship breakup, or, things that happen, a job loss, things that make us feel really, wounded. And to release those wounds, those energetic imprints of emotional wounds, is highly beneficial to allowing a person more freedom of choice and more empowered, healthy choices.
What kinds of changes have you seen in people who decide to go through this process?
I just witness all kinds of wonderful miracles as they go through my process. They access more control. One client, she's trying to lose weight and change her diet and give up wheat, and she's had struggles all her life, and she's very clear that she's open to the possibility of what I'm doing, which is nice. And so we've cleared some programs for her that has helped her a great deal in moving from feeling stuck in choice to being empowered in change. And every session there's a new person showing up that's got a lot more control, who's doing really healthy things. And it's a gradual process. Each person's going to be different, and it's it might be slower for some than others, and it may be faster for some. And we do it in a 3 or 6 month program, and we meet either weekly or biweekly. And the person determines what fits their budget or their needs, and we work with that.
Mm-hmm. Has it been difficult for people who find resistance to approaching, I guess, what would be known as the truth?
People have to be open-minded about trust, because what are they trusting in? Something that has, they trust in things that are conventionally proven by science, but then they're still suffering. And science is good, and we do need conventional, proven methods. I'm not trying to say science isn't good and conventional medicine isn't good. I'm saying that if that's all you're looking at, then you're missing more. And just because you don't have a scientific paper that says that this works, what does your experience tell you? And your experience is more important than a science paper. And I'd say if a person is open to an experience of something that they don't know about themselves, like I was with Reiki, and it took away my headache. I mean, someone came up and said, "You have a headache? I can help you with that. And can I just put my hand on your head for a second?" I'm like, "Sure." Headache went away. I'm like, "Wow, how did you do that? I feel so peaceful, and my headache's gone." So you just, you don't know. I mean, you just have to be open, and when you feel the experiences, when you start to go, "Geez, there's more to life than I ever realized."
Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you use that scenario of the idea somebody comes to you, they remove a headache, and, well, there's the evidence. We've achieved the result that I wanted, which is to get rid of the pain. But I need to explore this a little bit further scientifically. How did this happen? And you take a look at that in society today, it's almost as though we have this underlying ability to be not necessarily cynical, but, in such a way that perhaps skeptical would be the right word, and that what we use is a shield to prevent us from stepping into new experiences that probably can have a very positive impact on our health and our well-being, that we tend to shut ourselves off from those possibilities. It makes you kind of wonder, what makes us think that being skeptical is a protective veil from the possibility that these things just simply work?
Yeah, I think that's conditioning, We live in a world where everything's got to be proven,
mm-hmm.
and physically proven to us. In the physical world, because we think the physical world is all there is. We don't really we've never been taught to think about, that we're energy, that, the planet is, spinning, and the plants are growing and dying, and there's a cycle of life, and there's a cycle to life that's beyond our knowing, that everyone calls God, which, is the energy of all creation, which is, a part of us too. And there's, then we define it in religious terms, with doctrines and ideology, and the pieces that are missing are just the experience of ourselves as that, as a piece of that energy that's a perfect balance and harmony with the intention of the Creator. I don't know if that's going too deep, but
we have a pretty deep audience. They tend to take a look at this and go, "Oh, here's something on the horizon I haven't heard of before, or perhaps I have, but this is kind of a little bit different, and I'm interested in exploring this." And the fact is, when here's what's interesting. We live with a compass of emotions that help us to be guided by and experience the kind of reality that we have. And it's interesting that, like, for instance, falling in love, okay? Now, here's something we all yearn for, to be in love. And it's interesting that we buy into to being in love, even though it never really lasts. That is, that feeling of being in love, okay? And even though we buy into it, knowing that it doesn't last, you kind of scratch your head and say, well, why do we do this? It's because while it does last, it feels pretty dadgum great, Right. But the funny thing is that's just it. It's so fleeting. It's like happiness is fleeting. We try to find ways that we can actually go out there and be almost permanently happy, even though it doesn't last. Mm-hmm. Yet negative emotions, or the traumas that we have in our lives, tend to go on so long. It's like, why do we hold on to these things? What is it about negative emotions that has us hold on as though that was a life preserver out in the ocean? What has been your experience with that?
I don't know. I think that there's, my experience personally has been like that there's a need to justify it somehow. Mm-hmm. There's like a need to identify and justify, and then when you're justifying, then you're holding it in place. It's like a right to something, I have a right to feel this way because, and and then you want to blame and project blame, and everything's everybody else's fault, and then you're really not dealing with, that you have any power over your emotions. You're just letting your emotions be, the driving force behind everything you do, and it gets then bitterness and pain and resentment and then or isolation, closing off, not having an open heart. Those kinds of things happen because you don't want to be wounded again. You have a history of pain, and that's what the work I do helps to address, is to clear the patterns of negative emotion that are held in the field as energy, so that people can access a new experience of life and to start to choose healthier and to feel more in control of that they have choice. And most of us are living randomly through emotional states that come up, and then, they're either stuffed down or they're released in the moment, but there's still the imprint there, and then the need to blame and project, keeps it there. And so we aren't taking responsibility for our emotions, because they're ours. It's our perception of everything that colors our world, and we get to choose what that is.
It seems exciting for our listeners as they listen to you, Deborah, to realize not only are you empowered with choice, but it's also your responsibility to make those choices. And at the same time, when you think about the ideal of the negative emotional impact that maybe some circumstances have left you in, as you were talking about, it's almost as though we feel entitled to be victims. Who is going to come and save us? And you can see advertising certainly loves wrapping themselves around that state of insecurity and uncertainty in each and every one of us to say, well, here we are, we're here to take care of you just the way you would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they take, full advantage of the fact that people are caught up in the cycle of negative emotions, and and they come up with a new product to sell to make them feel better, and it's comfort in the moment, but the like chocolate, eating chocolate
and fast food there.
Yeah, or fast food or whatever, but yeah.
Now, talk about how you take people through the states of changing these emotional habits, where they go from being a victim to becoming 100% responsible for everything that happens in their lives.
It's such a process for each person, and it takes time. The programs that I run are, for 3 or 6 months. So we have to work in incremental stages to redirect their thought processes and to empower their choices to being more mindful in the moment of what they want, what they're choosing for their experience of life, and whether it's making a decision not to run through KFC to get fast food, or to wait till you get home and have an apple or something, but then what gets in the way of that is some emotional eating pattern or craving that you can't control. That a lot of the work I do neuro-linguistic programming as well, which is really interesting because it's doing working in the unconscious mind patterns, which is a little different approach, but it helps people to overcome some of the automated behaviors that come up and that we kind of intercept with these new techniques with the NLP. We intercept these automated responses, and so there are many techniques that I'm using that all help a person through their process, and we do each person differently. Whatever's indicated in this session is what's addressed. So, each person has a very individualized process, and I give nutrition information and new foods to try and recipes, and they set goals for themselves to try a new recipe that week, and then try a different food. and I help them with whatever shopping needs or cooking, whatever they need, because I have all kinds of great information. I did my educational studies with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which gave me a load of great information and wonderful handouts and great nutrition and recipes, food information, how it impacts the body, what our bodies need, what's missing. Omega-3s is a big deal for mood and for libido, lots of things. Our standard American diet isn't giving us enough, and we get too much omega-6, it's off-balancing the omega-3s if we're even getting any. So you got to take your omega-3s, everybody. And that's for health, too. Not that it's just for lots of reasons. Our whole bodies do better. It's keeping the immune system in health, in good health.
It must be very exciting doing the kind of work that you do through the Way of the Heart when you see the kinds of changes that you help people to affect. It isn't that you're making the change, you're just more of a guide or a coach, if you will, that helps them be led to the truth. Is that pretty much how it works?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I help them to access their inner wisdom, because everybody knows what they need to do, right? I mean, everybody's read all the material or seen all the, and everything that resonates is truth. Oh, I got to do that one day. Oh, I need to drink more water. How come I can't access to the mechanism to drink more water? What part of me is not aligning with that is because I know it to be true, but how come I can't bring it into action? And so there are a lot of things that we know that we need to do to make ourselves feel better, but we aren't able to access that to make that change. And much of it is held in the unconscious patterns, much of it's held in the energetic field, in our emotions, negative emotional states that limit choice and get in the way of accessing more love, really, because self-love is what you learn to do through my process. You learn to nurture your body, and that's really in the total body. You're learning to love yourself as you take on and put value on your life, your most precious gift ever given. If you put great value on your life, then you put great value on your body that holds your life here, and so you want to get into a place where you're doing things that keep it healthy and vibrant and make you feel good and energized every day and living your best life ever. So,
Deborah, as you were describing that, a thought had just come to mind when I was talking earlier about people who they're out there and they're looking and wanting change. And I'm talking about the kinds of people who authentically are feeling the drive to move in that direction. And, as I talked about being skeptical, and some people are cynical, and they're, of course, entitled to their right to feel that way, but I'm talking with the people who feel skeptical. Is that also, I guess, a veil when you talk about self-love, of saying, I am skeptical because I believe that I just don't deserve to feel that kind of experience of self-love?
Yeah, people self-sabotage in so many different ways, and it's really a challenge to get beyond the mind's constructs of absolutism and realities, and to open themselves to a new experience. And I think that's people who are living in a paradigm that they feel really safe in, that they don't want anything to disrupt, and they're afraid of the unknown. And it's people who are unafraid of the unknown, who are, ready for this work, that are going to be drawn to it. And the people who are skeptic, come and have an experience. If you're open enough to have the experience, then you'll see that there's something more to this, and you can definitely feel the experience. And if you're doing it just to make somebody wrong, just stay away.
Get out of here. We don't have any business with people like you.
Right.
I noticed that your I guess, company name is Espavo Life Services. Espavo, that's an interesting word there. How did that come about?
It's such a great word. I got it from a book that was gifted to me by the author Jean-Claude Coven called Going Deeper. I met him at a WESAC gathering in Mount Shasta in 2006, and we were staying at the same bed and breakfast, and he gifted me the book and signed it. And when I read the book, there was a word in it that was an ancient Lemurian greeting, at Espavo, and the meaning of Espavo is thank you for taking your power. And the beauty of that is really when you own your right to have the greatest life ever, owning your right to making healthy choices, having a healthy, vibrant body, having healthy emotions, having wonderful, healthy relationships, then and living your life purpose. I mean, everything comes, you just have a beautiful experience of life, and everyone has a right to that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I really liked the word. I loved the translation. I thought it would be fun to put it in the title of a business. Thank you for taking your power is pretty much describes the services that I do and who I intend my services to be, directed to.
That must make each day for you very exciting. Do you find that your life really transformed as you found yourself going in this direction to help others?
Yes, very much. And it's been quite a process for me as well because I'm new at this. And as you say, there's a lot of skepticism in the world, and and I'm taking on something that's pretty unique, and it's not totally unique. Well, there are people out there doing this too, but we're kind of going against the convention, the way that people conventionally think about medicine. But we're not trying to substitute for anything, and that's kind of where people go. Is they think that there's a us and them when there's everything, and there's a place for modern medicine, and there's a place for science, and this has its own science. But the experience is what's important. It's more important to allow yourself a new experience. Do you know what, people go to the doctor and they don't know what makes one of those CAT scan things work, and they don't know why or how ultrasound works, or, but they trust it, right? And just because I'm moving in something that hasn't been scientific, well, the science community hasn't said this, the FDA hasn't put a stamp of approval on, doesn't invalidate the value of what it is and what it does. And I think that people get trapped in an illusion of absolutism and believing only in things that have been verified by authorities. And I think that's a box that you're put in that keeps you your life very limited in choice and also very disempowered.
I was thinking of a quote by Steve Jobs, when you talked about authority. And here was somebody who really bucked that particular system very consistently, especially, allowing people to have the tools that take them beyond what was available before so that they could access that creativity and express themselves in the world. And it was interesting that, as he says, you will look around and you'll discover this thing that we call life was made up by rules from people who really aren't any smarter than you are. But yet we surrender ourselves to authority so much, or somebody else's opinion because they must know something that I don't. So I surrender that to you, even though it could put you in harm's way. Mm-hmm. And yet here you come along with something like the Way of the Heart that gives the results a lot of times that people are looking for, just to feel better, to realize they are empowered, to know that they can take that next step. Maybe they'll falter a little bit and make a mistake, but that's okay. You get back up with the confidence to know that that's a very impermanent situation that you're in, and that you're striving toward wholeness and happiness in the pursuit of truth. And it must be very exciting to realize when you look around and know that these people around you aren't any smarter than you are. That could put you in a very empowering position.
It really can. Each person has all the wisdom they need inside themselves to have the perfect quality of life that they desire. And each of us has the power to tune into that. And that's what my work does, is help people tune into their own power and find that inner quiet voice that's been waiting and, awaken in their hearts the knowing of their perfection and their right to have, joyful lives and beautiful relationships and, not dependent on, society's ideas of perfection or, but having your own idea of that your life is perfect, that you are perfect, and that everything that you do is fine, and that you're okay. Like the core knowing that who you are is as a unique individual and perfect expression, of the uniqueness of who you are is an important contribution to the whole, and that it's that shift that needs to take place from the total trust and absolute trust in authority to trusting in your own authority. Make the right decisions.
Because you're just as smart as anyone else.
Yes.
You got this far.
Yes, everybody.
Deborah, is there a website people can find out more about your work? And do they have to be, in location with you for this to work? Or, is it possible they can do a Skype session or things over the phone?
Well, I have an office in Northwest Portland that I use for therapies. And I've also seen people in my home space in Southwest Beaverton. And I'm doing a workshop this month, February 15th, at the Healing Waters Sacred Spaces events space. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., I'm going to share field program clearings of the Way of the Heart. And I help people release emotional states that are indicated to be cleared from the field. And they can be things like distrust, disrespect, depression, anxiety. It really brings instant release. And it's $20, and it's the address is 2426 Northeast Broadway. And you can go to their website, Healing Waters Sacred Spaces, and pre-register or go to the shop itself. And the sessions can be done over the phone if it's food guidance and nutrition guidance, but the field work has to be done in person. So I can't do the Way of the Heart from a distance.
There you go. You don't just put a toe in the pool to find out if you're going to swim. You got to be all in.
That's true. You want to use all the tools.
Well, Deborah, thank you so much for being on the program today. It's such a pleasure to know people like you are out there empowering others to take responsibility for your life. That's pretty much the message, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Give out that website again if you could, please. It's
EspavoLifeServices.com, and it's spelled ESPAVO, lifeservices.com.
Very good. Deborah, thanks for joining us here on the program today.
You're welcome. Would you like a meditation?
Sure, we can do that real quick.
It's a quick breath meditation Dr. Andrew Weil taught in our studies at the Institute. You place the tip of your tongue at the gum line at the top of your mouth, and you breathe in to the count of 4 all the way down to the depths of your diaphragm. You hold for 7 seconds. And then you blow out your mouth past your tongue for 8 seconds, a complete breath, noisy breath, just out, all the air out. And then you do that cycle again, breathing in through the nose, down to the count of 4, down to the depths of your lungs and diaphragm, holding for 7 seconds. And then breathing out past the tongue placed at the gum line, just breathing out noisy, heavy breath all the way out, 8 seconds. And when you do the cycle several times, it really brings a lot of peace and mindfulness when you're in a stressed out state. And you can do it at work, you can do it while you're driving in traffic, any situation, just to bring yourself into peace.
I feel better already. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it has an accumulative effect too, so the more you do it, the better it is.
Oh, boy. I remember there was one other thing I was told does that as well, but we won't talk about that on the program today. So.
Okay.
Deborah, thanks again.
Thank you.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there. To find out more about Espavo Life Services, be sure to visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We do have our weekly e-news updates for our exclusive listeners out there, so be sure that you sign up for those as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.